We just allow a few minutes here to sanitize everything. We're good. Okay. We bring on Vice Chair of the Guam Education Board, Mark Mendiola. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Hoffity, buenas, Chris and Bree. Thank you for
Hi.
having me on.
Of course. So we'll just get right into it. You guys had sent a resolution, right?
Yeah, you guys
Oh
passed a
yeah,
resolution during your recent Guam Education Board meeting regarding finances, money
man.
that you don't have over at the Guam Department of Education. Can you kind of run us through the resolution?
Yeah, that was man. I tell you, it's a long process for the Department of Education. Most of our budget call starts around November, December when we put the budget call out, asking for the different divisions and the schools to submit their budget. And Bree, one of the things about our budget, it's crafted based on the 14 points. There's
Mm-hmm.
a adequate education, and that's the toughest challenge because every year everybody's like, hey, you guys are submitting an exorbitant amount, exorbitant requests. But it goes to certified qualified teachers, right? It goes to certified administrators, all these requirements, and we don't meet those requirements. The students can sue the superintendent of the Board of Education. So we take that very seriously, And
Has the
so,
Department of Education ever met the 14 points of the Adequate Public Education Act?
I can tell you it is very challenging in this environment where, we're required by law to provide those things, but then the resources is dwindling significantly. And so, when we submitted our budget in January 31st by law, we have to submit it down to the legislature. It's about over $300 million based on all our needs, right? And so usually what happens is from the month of January or February on, they review the budget and then they call us down around June time and they start the budget talks or we start going into round tables. That's what they like to call us for. And then we start talking
As
to
a
them
no,
about
right?
right. And then, or the other thing is they threaten with oversights and all this other stuff, like where are we spending the money? And so, we're in constant communication with the senators. We're letting them know exactly what's going on with our finances. And the Department of Education, being the largest agency in the government of Guam, of course, has a lot of eyes onto what's going on. And so, in previous years, they've had these groups that were created just so that we can manage the resources. They've also had, we get audited. We got the OPA looking into our finances, all these requirements, right? And then, comes back to us and they give us a budget significantly lower than what we've asked for. And, it's unfortunate because, the education system, the way it's such a monumental task and it's an organic act mandate that we provide a free and appropriate education to all our kids, and that's the difference between the private schools and the public schools is that we have to accept everybody. We can't be selective, and rightly so. It's public education, and that's where the money needs to go to. So a couple years ago, if you recall, they also started the charter schools. That's even a public school because they took funding sources from the Department of Education, and they started these charter schools. And so now there's 4. Before there was 2, and then they said, okay, we're going to open a 3rd one and 4th. And yes, these schools they meet their their obligations and their mandates based on what their charter is. But at the end of the day, it's also the schools opening their doors, but it's also funding that's taken away from the Department of Education. Per pupil cost is what they were calling it. Mm-hmm. So you fast forward to today. In 2018, if you remember the tax cuts, that huge tax cut that we had to take, the Department of Education absorbed the majority of that. And one of the things that was crazy was since 2018 all the way up to this point, Bree, we had a $30 million reduction in education. That is a tremendous amount of reduction. That's from the local side. Mm-hmm. And we told our we told our people we got to have a spending plan that's based on safety, health and safety of our schools, the curriculum, making sure that we give the supports to the classrooms, and then of course our facilities. I mean, we have some old facilities that need tremendous amount of resources, and every year we get leaders taking tours of our schools and all this other stuff, and next thing you know, it's like, it's put on the back burner because the majority of our resources has to go to paying for the 14 points, which, of course, we need certified teachers in our classrooms.
Right, but you
And
guys are
that's,
staring at a $15 million cut for this fiscal year, right?
yeah, and that's pretty, we went down to the legislature. We said, hey, folks, we need to have this thing called the maintenance of efforts, and maintenance of efforts for the federal side, because that's the one thing that's kind of helping us at the moment, is getting these federal resources to put back into the classrooms and to the schools. And so these maintenance of effort is basically your average 3 years, previous years on your budget. And basically, if you do that, it gives you more access to federal funds and resources. And then now that we're releasing ourselves slowly and surely from the high risk and the high risk status and the third party, they're saying, hey, we're about to take you off of this. Our government is doing the opposite, and it's being very difficult in allowing us to manage our resources and giving us less resources to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing in this board resolution that we passed, Bree, was that, whatever savings we realized from that $2.5 million that we're paying for this third party, we're going to reinvest that back into making sure we have a robust central office so that we never go back. It was a very costly endeavor for us to have the federal government have a third party watching over us, so we have access to $60 million. That's a tremendous amount of resources that the local side has paid. And, of course, with the leadership of the department, with the superintendent, and then we have an internal audit office, we have leadership in the deputies, but all the way from top to bottom, this last virtual oversight from the U.S. Department of Ed, they realized that the Department of Ed had done a tremendous amount of work in responding to their concerns. And that's where we're at. And we're hoping that in January, we get better news that the reduction in cost of this third party, or just the removal of all these oversights, will be transitioned back now to the Department of Education. And that's what we're preparing ourselves for. Because every penny really counts, especially if we're trying to put that back into the classroom. Mm-hmm. And it's very tough when you're operating 41 schools and you're dealing with about 30,000, close to 30,000 students in the public school system. And so, of course, now with this pandemic, we're transitioning to, we're having, of course, virtual learning, and it's been very difficult for a lot of families. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure our department is safe for not only our students, but also for our employees, our teachers, and those folks that are in the front line, and, DOE has always stepped up to the plate when it came to its sharing in the government's responsibility to reduce costs. But frankly speaking, this last resolution, it was a significant, like you said, $15 million, Bree, and that is a large amount to absorb. And there's going to be some drastic measures and some serious conversations that we're going to have with our legislative body, because they tell us, don't do this, don't do that, pay your bills. But then at the end of the day, we don't have the resources. And of course, if these budget projections they're just projections, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have that revenue coming in, what do we do as a department? It's going to be very tough to pivot and change when, you're already mission driven. Your teachers are already into their lessons. You're going into the quarter. And then, you have to pivot and change because we don't have the resources and the finances. Mm-hmm. And so what we were told was that, hey, don't worry about it. We're just going to pass this. But if the revenues look better, we're going to go ahead and give you additional supplemental funding. And obviously, of course, we have to just manage our resources and watch how we spend our resources.
Mm-hmm. The reality is, though, Mark, that, you might not be there come November. There's an election and the Guam Education Board is on the ballot. And I'm not sure of all the different candidates. I'd have to pull it up, and what experience they bring to the table in terms of, and I hope they know the dire situation that's happening with the Department of Education facing these $15 million cuts. And how concerning is that? I mean, we might have a whole new group of people.
Right. With every election cycle, of course, it gives an opportunity for our community to become engaged and to select the leadership. And, I can honestly say that the current board that we worked really tirelessly to address a lot of the financial concerns But not only that, but to also address the leadership issues that we were plaguing the Department of Education many years ago. And so, we're moving forward, and there's a good cross section of our community members. There's 3 appointed by the governor, and then 6 that are elected. And so there's 10 candidates running for 6 seats that is available. And of course, we ask our community to come out and vote. This is one way where you can impact the policy decisions of the Department of Education. And so, of course, our challenges are going to be great this next coming year. I don't think it's insurmountable. I think we can all work together to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, as you transition, there's going to be new dynamics coming into the board, and that's going to be something that the board would have to every January we choose the leadership, and then of course we set the tone as to how we're going to operate for the whole year in terms of what the board's agenda is going to be.
Yeah.
But that's the challenge.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we have elections, right?
It
Yes,
kind of looks like they're doing that old Uncle Carl trick where they just run a bunch of their candidates for the election board. Because I was just looking at who's running it all. It looks like a lot of them have really close ties to Adelup, and Lord knows you guys have butted heads with the administration, whether it was on the interscholastic sports or whether it was trying to ensure you guys got your fair piece of the pie ahead of the charter schools. That being said, how concerning is it that we have an obvious effort, maybe a little heavy-handed, to change the complexion of the Guam Education Board in this election?
Well, seriously, that's a good question, Chris, because that it is out there. That this is what's being presented, but I seriously think our electorate, we got to be smart on the way we vote this election, because there's a lot at stake with this pandemic, right? And so I just hope folks come out and they do exercise their right to vote, and they look at the quality of the candidates, their character, and of course their ability to work with people. And so whether I was appointed by Governor Calvo to serve on the board as the parent or rep. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people, it's an honor to serve, to call to serve, but also, when you have these issues that come before you, you hope that the people can be independent enough to basically make the tough decisions despite whatever political affiliations they have. And I think that's the challenge. We live in a political environment, but if people are up to the challenge and be independent thinkers and take the hard position, even though it's not the popular position. I tell folks at the end of the day, there's a lot of data and information that's provided to us. One of the reasons why our board is functioning the way I think it's effectively and efficiently is because everything we do now is written in resolution form, and resolution basically highlights the chronological history of what it is that we're making a decision on, and then there's the therefore portion where the board makes a decision and takes action on it rather than just a simple motion. There's a lot of explanation as to how the board comes to the decision. So, Chris, I'm pretty sure a lot of these candidates that are running, they're very strong. They're strong-willed people, and I believe that they have characters to, that they can be independent thinkers, when it comes to information that's presented to them from the Department of Ed. And so I think that's the key component is, folks like you and the media that keep us on our toes, and we are transparent. One of the most transparent boards. All our meetings are online. We record them, we post them on. By law, we have to put our board meeting minutes. And so, if there's one agency that has been really up to date with following its policy and the law with respect to how we make decisions at the Department of Education, it's all online. So some people may disagree with us. Some people disagree with us on the sport issue, but at the end of the day, we are a board for the public schools, and that's the reason why we made those decisions. And so some people may not be pleased with that, but I can honestly say what was before us, the decisions we made was based on what was the greater good for the Department of Education. So I just hope that people come out and vote and exercise their right to vote and wash your hands and stay safe.
Right on. So we're allowed mental exercise, physical exercise, and you can also voting exercise.
Right.
Yeah. Vice,
Voting.
I don't know if you guys touch on face to face?
No, no, we just stuck on the
Yeah.
budget.
Are we talking at all about face to face instruction? And then
You
also,
know,
I know that you wanted to implore to the parents about the online. So just go ahead and respond to the face to face, and then just seg into the online.
when it comes to this pandemic, and especially in education, it's a lot of uncharted territory, right? So if you look at what's going on in the nation with respect to other school districts, a lot of them are pivoting. Well, Guam is at this point in time, for all intents and purposes, if you look at what's going out there and, with the data and all this stuff, and then we see these reports. The other day I asked the superintendent, I said, why is it always reported that DOE has, COVID cases? There's no other agencies that have it. Well, the Department of Education, we provide that information. The superintendent provides it so that people are aware. But of course, when we first initially took our vote to open school, the board was kind of split in that respect. But the dissenting votes basically said, hey, you know what, the board acts as one unit. So in the upcoming months, of course, the superintendent is going to be providing guidance as to what he thinks is going to be in the best interest of the department. And not only just in terms of the students, but also for the employees, especially when our employees are exposed to the pandemic, right? And just everybody in general. And so the board meeting, we're going to be having some board meetings to basically discuss work sessions, what we would call them, to discuss the health and safety and the potential of opening. But at this point in time, the board took a vote in the last meeting to open school. But because of the governor's PCOR 1 status, of course, all the schools now are shut down for the moment. But should we go back, and I don't think it's going to be a rapid here in PCOR 3 or 4, but rather it's going to gradually, work itself back to where we can start to go back to our normal situation. But obviously, with the recent deaths and all these other things, there's some great concern, a lot of anxiety out there in the community. And so right now, all we can offer at this point in time, is the online learning. And trust me, it's very difficult. As a parent of 4 boys, 2 in the high school, 1 in middle, and 1 in elementary. And I have a special needs child too. So having an IEP and dealing with that is very tough. And then my wife is also a math teacher at Tees and High. So you can obviously see how busy my home gets in the morning, especially when we have to figure out who's going to use the devices and when the classes are going to take place. I could just imagine what's going on out in our community.
Right.
But I can say that the superintendent and the team are working diligently. He reported to the board that they're trying to reduce the number of students that we cannot get in contact with. So I do know that the mayor's office is partnered with us. Mayor Savares is also on our board. And so she's helping us to go out there into the community to help assist and get a hold of some of these parents and where these kids are at. And so we're going to be getting a report shortly on the number of students that we haven't been able to communicate with. But once we bring them back into the fold, I think we're going to be able to figure out how to provide education as best we can via the online learning, and then providing these devices out for our students.
Yeah, Vice, I know we're talking yesterday and prep for this, and you were like, man, I got to rush home and hotspot the kids because you're doing the online. So
yeah, so I got my smartphone, and so when I kind of limit my middle schooler. He's a 6th grader, and then my elementary son, who is he's with 4th grade. But I also have 1 kid in daycare, and they're also on they're also on virtual learning. So it's really a balance, Chris, and I think that's where the anxiety level for a lot of our families. And believe me, there's a tremendous amount of assignments and projects, but I understand the importance of education. We all do. And we as parents, we just got to be partners in this. We got to be partners with our teachers. I communicate with our teachers. I started a WhatsApp group, and I said, before it becomes a crisis or a problem, just let me know. And there are a lot of teachers that do wake up. My wife wakes up at 4:30, 5 in the morning, and she's preparing for her lessons to be given at 6:15, 6 o'clock. And so there are a tremendous amount of heroes out there that need to be recognized, because they're not being recognized for the efforts that have been teachers, I hope now that our community has a sense of appreciation for what teachers go through. And, a lot of parents rely on them heavily to educate their children. But when it comes to core values at the home, this is where, I instill in my kids every night, or I try as much as possible to sit with them in the evening and say, how was your day? Despite the homework and all this other stuff, because the kids too are going under a tremendous amount of stress,
Yeah.
trying to deal with this stuff. But it's amazing when the light bulb clicks and they're able to navigate through the social the technology and all that stuff. And you're like, wow, okay. The one thing our kids are going to be better for, they're going to be globally competitive, meaning they're going to be able to communicate.
Yep.
Unlike us back in the day, Chris, where, you had family living in the mainland and you would have to wait for the time difference and you have to figure that out.
Right.
Now these guys are going to be able to do the Zoom meetings and all
They're
that.
going to
other
Zoom
stuff.
with the best of them.
Google Meets.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Vice.
Yep.
Next time, play us a song if you're going to put that guitar there.
Writing my COVID song, maybe I could go viral.
I'm writing it
There you
too.
go.
Yeah. Hey, I get the joke there.
The characters to sing.
Writing a
And
COVID
then,
song. Hope it goes viral. Hey. Right.
Right, and my Familiar Lay band, we have a Familiar Lay band, our family band. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get you guys to play. But yeah, Chris, everybody's just gotta, pivot and just be ready for some of the changes that will be coming. And giving us the opportunity to talk about the budget is a very crucial and key point for the department at this time, because these resources at 208, if they don't if we don't meet that by the end of next fiscal year, we're going to be in some serious discussions about how we're going to have to make the department whole. And so we'll continue to brief the community. We'll continue to have those important meetings, and God willing, the board will still be functioning in a manner that will be transparent, that when we make these decisions, before we make these decisions, we engage with all the stakeholders. So I just ask people to go out there, exercise their right to vote, and vote based on what the candidates are putting out there.
Thanks, Vice.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
Thank you.
That's
Stay safe.
wash your hands. Guam Education Board Vice Chair Mark Mendiola. A good talk there. Let's go over to the KUM News Zoom room. Guam Memorial Hospital Administrator Lillian Posadas. Thank you for joining us, Lillian.
Good morning, Lillian.